Welcome to Dreamy Tales, where soothing stories guide you into a peaceful night's sleep. Enjoy imaginative bedtime stories that take you on a journey to the land of dreams, accompanied by relaxing background sounds to help you unwind and drift off easily. Perfect for both children and adults, Dreamy Tales is your ideal companion to relax, wind down, and enjoy tranquil moments. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and share it with others. Tune in, relax, and let your mind wander into a world of calm and serenity with us. In the kingdom of Draconia, nestled among towering mountains and sprawling valleys, dragons lived harmoniously. Each dragon had a purpose. Some guarded the kingdom's treasures, others farmed the precious gemstones in the mountain caves, and a select few were scholars, crafting magical texts that taught the next generation of dragons about their ancient heritage. But none had a more unique role than Danny, the dragon detective. A legend in his own right, Danny was known for his keen intellect, unmatched observational skills, and an unyielding sense of justice. Danny was unlike the other dragons. He wasn't the largest or the strongest, and he didn't breathe the hottest fire. His strength lay in his mind. A brilliant emerald-scaled dragon, he used logic, deduction, and a knack for seeing details others overlooked to solve the mysteries of Draconia. His scales shimmered like polished jade, and his wings were trimmed with golden veins that reflected the light in a way that made him stand out even among the royal dragons. His sharp, golden eyes never missed a detail, whether in the smallest of clues or the subtlest of emotions. One bright morning, as Danny was finishing his daily routine, taking a leisurely flight over the kingdom and stopping to chat with his old friend, Iris, the potion maker, he received a sudden summons from Captain Blaze, the head of the Dragon Guard. Danny was used to being called upon for important cases, but something about Blaze's tone made him sense this case was more urgent than usual. Landing at his door, Captain Blaze, a dragon covered in striking ruby-red scales, looked unusually tense. "Danny, we have a crisis on our claws. The royal hoard, King Ignis's entire treasure, it's missing." Danny's brow furrowed. "The whole hoard? That's impossible. It's guarded day and night by some of the fiercest dragons in Draconia." Blaze shook his head. "I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. Every last gemstone, every coin, gone." Danny didn't need any more details. He spread his wings and took off into the sky, with Blaze flying close behind. This theft wasn't just about money. The royal hoard was a symbol of the kingdom's strength and unity. If it was gone, Draconia could be plunged into political chaos, with rival factions or even neighboring kingdoms sensing weakness and moving in to take advantage. When Danny arrived at the royal cavern, he immediately felt the gravity of the situation. The grand entrance, usually bustling with guards and servants, was eerily quiet. The cavern's towering archways and gilded walls, which typically glistened from the reflections of the treasure piles, now seemed desolate and dark. King Ignis, a magnificent gold-scaled dragon, was pacing near the entrance, his claws scratching the stone floor in agitation. His golden eyes, usually calm and commanding, were alight with frustration and fear. "Danny!" Ignis bellowed. "You have to find it. The hoard must be returned before word gets out." If our enemies learn of this, it could lead to war. Danny nodded solemnly. I'll do everything in my power, Your Majesty. I'll need to examine the site and speak with the guards. Ignis gestured towards the cavern entrance, where a group of guards stood, their heads hung low in shame. We saw nothing, Detective, said one of the guards, a silver-scaled dragon named Galen, who had been stationed at the hoard for years. It was there when we did our nightly inspection, and when we returned at dawn, it had vanished. Danny narrowed his eyes, his mind already racing. Treasures don't just disappear into thin air, he muttered. And a theft of this magnitude requires careful planning. He stepped into the cavern, taking in the scene. The vast space was devoid of its usual glittering contents. What had once been a dazzling array of gemstones, gold coins, and rare artifacts now lay bare, with only the faintest hint of dust to mark where the piles once stood. As Danny inspected the area, he noticed something peculiar. A faint smell of sulfur lingered in the air, strange, as Draconian dragons didn't have a sulfuric odor. Kneeling down, Danny spotted a single, copper-colored scale wedged between two stones on the cavern floor. He carefully picked it up, examining it in the light. This was no ordinary dragon scale, it belonged to a wyvern. Wyverns were distant relatives of dragons, smaller and with fewer magical abilities, but notoriously cunning. They weren't welcome in Draconia, but there had been whispers of wyverns lurking around the borders in recent months. Danny's eyes narrowed. If a wyvern was involved, this theft might have been more than just a simple heist. The question was, who had the power and connections to smuggle a wyvern into Draconia without anyone noticing? Armed with the scale as his first clue, Danny began questioning the guards in more detail. One by one, they reiterated their innocence, but Danny noticed something peculiar during his conversation with one particular guard, an old dragon named Seer. Seer, whose scales were a dull gray from age, had been a loyal guard for decades, yet his nervous fidgeting didn't escape Danny's sharp gaze. Have you seen anything unusual recently, Seer? Danny asked, his voice calm but firm. Seer hesitated for a fraction of a second, then shook his head. Nothing, Detective. I swear. But that pause, brief as it was, told Danny all he needed to know. Seer was hiding something. Danny decided to tail Seer discreetly after their conversation. He followed the older dragon to a secluded area behind the royal stables, where Seer met with a shadowy figure, a dragoness with black, shimmering scales. The two exchanged hushed words, and then the dragoness slipped something into Seer's claws before disappearing into the woods. Danny's eyes narrowed. He approached Seer silently, making sure not to be seen, and when the old dragon turned to leave, Danny stepped into his path. Seer, Danny said, his voice low, I think it's time you told me the truth. Seer's eyes widened with fear, but before he could flee, Danny's larger form blocked his escape. With a sigh, the old dragon relented, lowering his head in shame. I didn't steal the hoard, I swear it. Seer began. But I did make a deal. I was desperate. My family has been struggling, and I needed the money. The dragoness, she offered me a small fortune if I looked the other way during my shift. I didn't know the hoard would be taken. I thought it was just a minor deal, but now, I realize what I've done. Danny listened intently. Who is she? Seer glanced nervously toward the woods. Her name is Nala. She's part of a group of dragons who've been trading with wyverns. I think they might be behind this. Danny clenched his jaw. The plot was thickening. Nala had to be found, and quickly. After confronting Seer, Danny wasted no time tracking down Nala. Using his connections with the Dragon Guard, he discovered that Nala had recently been spotted near the border of Draconia, close to the Wyvern Hills. Danny flew there at once, determined to get answers. When he arrived at the hills, he found Nala waiting, as if she had anticipated his arrival. So, the great Danny the Dragon Detective finally caught up with me, Nala said with a smirk. Her black scales shimmered in the moonlight, and her eyes gleamed with mischief. I don't have time for games, Nala, Danny growled. Where's the hoard? Nala chuckled softly. You're too late, detective. The hoard is already gone, scattered across the Wyvern lands. But I suppose I could help you, if you're willing to make a deal. Danny's eyes narrowed. He knew better than to trust Nala, but he needed to find the hoard before it was lost forever. What do you want? Danny asked cautiously. Nala's smile widened. Simple. I want immunity. Let me go free, and I'll give you the names of the dragons who orchestrated the theft. With no other leads, Danny reluctantly agreed to Nala's terms. She revealed that a secret faction within Draconia, led by Lord Ember, a powerful figure in the royal court, had orchestrated the theft. Ember had grown tired of King Ignis's rule and planned to use the stolen hoard to finance a coup, using the wyverns as scapegoats. Armed with this information, Danny returned to the capital and presented his findings to King Ignis. The king was furious, but grateful to Danny for uncovering the plot before it was too late. Lord Ember was arrested, and the stolen hoard was slowly recovered from the Wyvern lands. Draconia returned to peace once more, thanks to Danny's sharp mind and perseverance. Though the kingdom had been on the brink of disaster, Danny's determination ensured that justice was served. The king offered Danny a prestigious position within the court, but the detective refused, preferring to remain independent. There will always be more mysteries to solve, Danny said with a smile, as he flew off into the horizon, ready for the next challenge that awaited him in the magical land of Draconia.